Formula One is a technical masterpiece, and I'm not just talking about the cars. With hundreds of cameras, kilometers of cables, and dozens of people working around the clock, it seems almost impossible that it can be broadcast live. Now, a couple months ago, I made a video on how F1 is filmed, and it went viral. Like, really viral. So obviously, I wanted to do a bit of a follow-up video, kind of a part 2, but I wanted it to be a bit different. Instead of just relying on my own research, I thought it'd be amazing to hear how F1 is filmed firsthand. And that's why today I interviewed Ashley Farismond. He's been a trackside camera operator with F1 for over 15 years, and he's a really nice guy. He shared some incredible stories and insights about what goes on behind the scenes of the F1 production team. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. If you liked the video, please do consider subscribing and let me know in the comments if you think I should do more F1 related videos in the future. Without further ado, Ashley Farismond.
Hi guys, I'm Ashley Farismond and I'm a cameraman at Formula One.
When did you start working at F1? Because I know you mentioned you actually currently do work for F1.
So 2007 I started, I was 18. And I started there doing the rigging and then gradually worked way up and then got onto the cameras on the trackside. So far, up to date, I've done every single race since then. So, you know, there's not one country at the moment outstanding I haven't done, which is quite nice. So
in my first F1 video, I included a shot of a camera operator doing a whip pan incredibly fast as the car is zooming by. I asked a question, is this guy either getting complete garbage or is he the best camera operator in the world? And lo and behold, that camera operator is you. So can you answer the question, were you just getting garbage or are you actually an extremely talented camera operator?
I mean, I wouldn't want to swell my head too much and say I'm extremely talented, but luckily for me, the car was in frame, and if you watch back at some of the shots from Eau Rouge, no, it's not garbage.
How hard is it to actually track a car that's going hundreds of kilometers an hour around a corner? How hard is that to do?
Again, I don't want to, you know, big up myself too much, but I wouldn't have said it's easy. And again, even till Sunday, I'm still adjusting the camera. I'm still adjusting, you know, my frictions, because some cameramen like to run it loose. I like it very stiff. And on that video you had, there was so much tape, etc., all over the camera. Because where you're whipping it so fast, you literally don't want any cables to get snagged or caught. Sometimes on a fast whip, I like to mount my viewfinder on the actual armco of the fence. Then you're just fixed looking at the screen above you, so that you can then just whip the camera as fast as you can.
Oh, that's really smart.
Yeah, I wouldn't have said it's something you could just walk up and do.
No, definitely not. And then can you describe how your position as a camera operator fits into the overall broadcast team itself?
I'm just one piece in the whole operation, if you like. There's so many people, you know, the replay team, there's timing, there's all sorts of teams within F1. And then you've got our department, which is the track cameras. Then we've got the directors with us. So we're literally just a small piece of the puzzle, to be honest, making it all work.
So back in 2007, when you were 18, how did you originally get your position at F1?
So that was through a friend of my dad's who he grew up with. Luckily at the time, just right place, right time. He said there was a job opening coming up in the rigging side of it all, setting up all the cables and building the broadcast centre, etc. And then it just went from there, really. And before I knew it, at 18, I was going to Malaysia.
Wow.
And started traveling the world. So it was pretty cool, actually.
Did you have any like formal training when you originally started, or when you upgraded from, say, a rigger to an actual camera operator? What was the training process like?
So for me, it was on site. It took a year or two, just shadowing a few of the experienced guys, and then having a go on the support formulas, you know, and then you'd start by practicing in the pit lane, and then you'd maybe go out onto the cranes on the track, so up a 20-meter crane or a 40-meter crane, and then go from there.
So what would you say is the most difficult part of your job?
I think probably the time zones, if you like. You know, it's not a 9-to-5 job. You're going there to work. The job's done when the job's done. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, you know, if we're coming off the back of a double or a triple, There's a lot of the teams, they work crazy hours throughout the night. And a lot of the F1 guys, they work some serious hours, making sure everything gets set up. They come in the early hours of the morning to take all the freight, etc. So I would have said possibly just the time zones, would be the hardest thing about it, just adjusting, moving from country to country, getting your body acclimatized.
When you are traveling to a new city, let's say Malaysia, what day of the week are you guys getting flown into the city to film? And then do you have a chance to explore the city at all, or are you basically just at the track?
So that varies really for everyone, because I go out on a Sunday or a Monday to some of these countries, and we spend a few days setting up the cameras around the track. Like I said before, the virtual stuff. The actual camera guys, the rest of them, they'd get out there on a Wednesday, and then we'd start work with the practice on the Thursday. To be honest, Thursday evening, you might have some time to yourself, depending on the time zone, etc. But normally, by the time you're leaving the track, it's back to the hotel for a bit of dinner and bed. But on some of the triples, or a double, if you get to the next country, you might have a Monday off or a Tuesday off, where, before COVID, we had a bit of time to explore, etc.
Briefly, what does the setup and rehearsal look for a Grand Prix weekend?
It's chaos, really. There's just containers everywhere, but normally the guys have got it all set up. Each team arrives, they know their specific jobs they've got to do, and everyone goes off and does that, and everyone works with each other. It is really good, but it's a crazy scene to see hundreds of people turning up, especially on the back of a double, and they make it happen. And the next day, before you know it, everything's done and tidied away. It's a real scene to see.
So far, since 2007, what has been your most memorable experience working for F1?
I think for me personally, from your previous video, it'd have to be the Eau Rouge moment on the camera, going there for the first time. It's just, I can't describe it. It's the most ultimate buzz ever.
Really?
Being at Eau Rouge with 20 F1 cars coming past you.
Wow.
It is just a crazy feeling. The speed of these cars, even though the fans, they're not too far behind you, but when you're physically next to them on the racetrack against the barrier, it's just, you don't realise how fast these cars are. It's a real privilege to be able to be that close to them, and the buzz you get from it is crazy. It really is. Because
you're so close to the track, have you ever been beside a big crash that's happened, or had someone crash right in front of you?
I think in Barcelona once, I think it was Stroll, came off with the gravel, and the gravel shattered the filter lens on the front of the camera.
Oh my gosh.
And then the whole signage came across. I don't think there's not really, touch wood, been any other close calls, luckily, because normally they're all in pretty safe positions, making sure everyone's okay. So touch wood, no close calls.
Without getting too detailed, can you describe a bit of the equipment that you're using to film the races?
Roughly, it varies depending on the length of the track. So you've got 24 to say 26 cameras on some of the longest tracks, like Baku, etc. We've got about 4 86 box lenses. Then we've got about 16 20 lens cameras. Okay. Every so often we have 12 lens, depending on the shot, location, for the wider stuff, for crowd, etc. And then you've got a 4A and a Sony super slow-mo.
I believe, based on my research, you guys were using Grass Valley cameras normally. Is that correct still?
Yeah, so it's Grass Valley bodies, and then normally it's the Canon lens.
And with that, this is another kind of technical question. Are you guys using autofocus with the cameras?
No, so we're actually manually focusing ourselves. We have our focus wheels and our zoom demand. The actual focusing, that's all down to the camera operator. There's no one else doing that.
Wow, that's crazy. Are you using like focus peaking or any like visual assistance with it, or is it just looking on the screen and judging it?
Some people, again, everyone has different preferences. Some people run on mono still, some people run on color, or they have real high green or purple pinking. It depends. I don't like running any peaking, to be honest.
Have you ever had any technical issues while filming?
I think I could happily say I've had a cable snag as I've whipped a camera before. So that was a horrible moment, unfortunately. But it's one of those, I think, where you learn, and then from then on, you know, I've touched wood again, never had it. So now I make sure all my cables are tidied, everything is taped up so that nothing can snag. You know, there's a lot of lessons you learn and still learning while on the job.
During an actual race, do you get to enjoy watching the race, or are you so focused on trying to nail your shots as the cars go by?
I think I'd say I'm trying to be focused, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, you still have to know what's going on with the race because you need to know who's where, if you like. So like on our returns, you can see the drivers, etc., the stand-ins. So we know who's where, and if they're calling for the cars, you know what position there are to try and help yourself out, counting the cars if they're all a bit muddled up. And again, listening in to the people talking to you. Mm-hmm. You know, you've really got to be listening straight away to just keep an eye out of what they're filming, what subject they're with, so you know who you're going with.
Right. So will they tell you, like, if they're tracking, let's just say Verstappen, and he's midfield working his way up, so will they tell you specifically, like, track Verstappen if you're doing a whip pan as he goes by and you're just waiting for him and then you track him? Or will it be you kind of interpret it as you see fit?
Yeah, so no, if they'll tell you a subject to go on, and again, you're listening to say whatever your camera number is, you kind of listen a few camera numbers ahead, watching on the returns, seeing where they're at and what subject they're with. You go with who they're telling you, who the PAs of the director's telling you to go with. But unless something seriously critical happens, you know, you kind of have to just use your head a bit. If Verstappen was on his own, but just ahead, there's a crash about to happen, you know, you go with the crash and just hope for the best.
Traditionally on like a film set, you'd have a cinematographer that's deciding the shot type, the lens, the blah, 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 all the different camera settings and positions you're going to use. Is there someone similar for F1 in terms of determining where the cameras are actually going to be? Or how does that, who's deciding the camera angles?
So yeah, there's a couple of guys that will go out to a race before, especially if it's a new race, you know, and they'll figure out all their positions. And then generally it's always going to be a similar position as from the previous year, unless there's track changes or any safety changes. By Friday or Saturday, they might move the camera again to a new position, whether it be a wall-mounted camera, a 2-meter platform, it might be up a crane. Sometimes we use tripods out on the track, depending on the position and if it's not too fast of a pan. But we've got these fixed platforms where the camera heads mount on, specifically for the F1, and it works really well.
Quick question on the whip pans. Are they ever robotically done or are they always manually done?
So there is some remote cameras, you know, if there's certain positions where it's too unsafe for a camera operator to be, or you just physically can't get a camera platform there, they really vary where they end up putting those. Sometimes they'll have them under bridges, so then they're robotic panning underneath and getting them away, you know, so you see the whole top of the car. It looks quite cool. And then you've got your special cameras, etc., which they put in the curbs and walls and bits around the track. How
do you determine which track position you're going to be filming from? Is it like a preset plan, or do you have a bit of choice where you want to pick?
No, so the director will give us a preset plan. He'll have come up with a plan of all the positions. He'll send everyone a position, you know, where you're at, what camera you're using. So then when everyone turns up, everyone knows where they're at and what, etc., they need to be taking. It really varies on the track. So you could be on Eau Rouge in Belgium on a fast whip, and then a few shots up, you'll be on a head-on on a box lens, which you've got plenty of time picking the cars up coming towards you.
Every so often in the broadcast, a shot will catch my eye where someone's doing something real fancy, like focus pulling from these trees, like through the trees, you like see a car and you go over there. So sometimes I notice these really creative shots. Are there people that specialize in just like, you get this really pretty shot with this crazy focus pull? Like, or is that discussed, or is that some camera operator just going rogue and putting his own artistic input into it?
Yeah, I suppose it's the camera operator, you know, looking around. If they think, oh, that'd actually look really nice, like you said, through the trees, they'll offer it up to the directors. The director is so quick looking at all the screens in front of him. He'll say, no, crash in, or, you know, start wide. He'll know exactly how he wants you, or he might give you a heads up. I've spotted that, but for now, let's just focus on whatever subject. And then they'll say maybe later in the race, okay, actually, let's try that next lap and get that in.
And then the final question here, what is it like if it's a wet race as a camera operator?
I think to start with, it was horrible. Over the years, I've learned now to make sure I pack extra wet clothes and warm clothes. You also have to be a bit strategic in how much you're packing so your suitcase doesn't weigh too much.
Yeah.
But I think for my worst experience, it would be up a 40-meter crane in Nürburgring. And I was just frozen to the bone. It was horrible. It was just grim up there. But, you know, you now learn to take hand warmers, extra gloves, extra layers, everything. So just stay as dry and warm as you can.
God, and how long are you up on a crane for? How long is that?
You have to kind of weigh it up a bit, you know, because you might only have 10 minutes until the next support session. So you've not got time to come down. And if there's...
Oh my gosh. So you're doing all the support races and the F1 races as a camera operator?
So, yeah, up the cranes, you know, they're covering all the races. Every so often, the director might say, okay, if it's been a real grim day like that on a support race at the end of the day, you know, if it's just a practice, say, not an actual race, okay, the crane guys could stand down for this one, you know, give them a break because they've been up there in the freezing cold rain with no shelter or anything.
Oh, God. Thank you so much for talking with me. You're such interesting information. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this, and best of luck with the 2022 season, and excited to see some beautiful shots.
Thank you, Tommy. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and got a lot out of it, because I know I learned a ton from Ashley. Please head over to Ashley's Instagram and give him a follow. He was such a legend for doing this interview, and he's always up to cool stuff. So go check out his Instagram. Once again, please do consider subscribing if you liked the video. Give it a like, comment, you know, all the normal algorithm boosting stuff. And yeah, let me know if you want to see more F1 related videos. I have a couple ideas lined up, so you let me know. Apart from that, you can find me on Instagram at TommyDeWitt_, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Woo! Aha.